Welcome to Rauta's Dual Review. This time trying a little bit of a different format due to some feedback, so let me know whether or not this kind of a format works for you. That is one video featuring two reviews. Let's see how it goes. And today's albums are of the same genre, exactly what I wanted to do. We have Frozen Wreath, or Wreath from Hungary, and then we have Utburd from Russia. Both are atmospheric black metal. But which one would I go if I needed to choose only one album for a given trip? Let's find out, shall we? First, let's go in an alphabetical order. That's the correct order that we'll do it. This one is the debut album called Memento Mori by this duo from Hungary. Now, this duo actually features members who are already known from some other bands, but none of them are exactly very famous or big, but nevertheless worth mentioning. At least I've previously mentioned a band called Witcher from Hungary, and that member is part of Frozen Wreath as well, and as such making kind of an impact on this album as well. Now, Witcher is somewhat similar in style, both being more on the atmospheric end of black metal. That is not exactly the most rawest kind of a black metal, but more on the atmospheric side, more about this, I guess, somewhat more beautiful, more moody kind of a thing. And this is also true Philosophem Records, and I'll show you on the Metalax site. Is very new band, considering it was done in 2020. And Memento Mori is featuring some 8 tracks through 42 minutes. Now the thing here is, its black metal is very much the kind of typical for atmospheric parts. You have the kind of a droning songs which are more about, kind of a weaving the atmosphere, not so about riff oriented and all that. And you will have these clear parts of vocals, but mostly it's obviously kind of raspier stuff. And none of these riffs really are anything like wow. It's more about, going in the same ways forward as so many post-metal bands. You're kind of a building for the climax. Sometimes it comes, way too often it doesn't. And as such, this is not so much even melody-driven as you might expect, but obviously this kind of falls into that category as well. When it comes to songwriting, let's be honest about it, it's not too shabby. This is basically a very typical debut album, or one could even say very typical demo, in the sense that while everything is just okay, nothing really is like wow. Songwriting is okay, but nothing really mind-blowing. And the same thing goes with the vocals and the production. Everything is kind of in place, waiting to be honed, taken to a next level, if you will. But nothing really is like, wow, it's super cool and all that stuff. And as such, this album is a little bit of a disappointment, given that Witcher was already taking steps forward, evolving, so to speak. And this is, compared to that, like a step backwards. Obviously, these are two different bands, but once again, when you have similar, or same members and similar style, obviously you're kind of expecting, okay, because this is a newer band, it's going to be a step forward rather than a sidestep or even backwards. But that is the first album on this review. Then the second one, Utburd, with the second album called The Untold. That is a second album by the band, which is actually, technically speaking, a solo project from Russia. And the band is now out, or project is now out, with a new album, third album in 2021, but at least so far it hasn't arrived here, so I really can't say anything about it, like has it evolved or changed this from this style. So now we're focusing on this album alone. One-man project from Russia means, in this case, kind of a bedroom black metal in a typical way. That is, you have this somewhat decent production, very decent vocals and all that stuff. But when it comes to songwriting, my friends, I'm sorry that I have to tell you, the Horrors Untold is very, very boring an album. Now, much like Frozen Wreath here, this is mostly about creating the atmosphere. You have some better melodies here and there. You have a lot of riffs which would be called as filler material. And then you have these, well, decent raspy vocals, decent, melodies and, production. But nothing really is like, wow, I want to get to this, back to this so much more, And in my opinion, this could have been a decent mini CD or MLP, but as a full-length album that takes for almost an hour, this gets really, really boring and even very, very repetitive with its lengthy songs. I mean, you have 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 11 minute songs. It doesn't really cut it because there's nothing really interesting. Here and there, like I said, a couple of more interesting melodies, but mostly it's a very, very mediocre album. Not annoying, and as such, I cannot really call it like a bad album. And it's not like there are major flaws. Nothing really indicates any kind of flaw-like thing in that sense. But I really can't enjoy this kind of album, which seems to me it's not going nowhere. There's nothing really fascinating about it. But in case you're just okay with your mediocre atmospheric black metal, or you don't mind really that there's a lack of catchiness, lack of something very triumphant, well, this is your cup of tea. So, given that neither of these albums are exactly nailing it, now the thing obviously is which one you would go with if you had to choose, maybe for your road trip, maybe before getting into bed and sleep. Now the competition is really, really tight because I really couldn't like too much none of these. And as such, if I had to pick the winner, well, I would go to Hungary rather than Russia in that case. Even if this is not a lot better than Utburd, at least this has some more potential. I hate to be this kind of a negative Joe, but I really couldn't get to like neither of these too much. Not bad, but very, very mediocre overall. Obviously, you decide for yourself. Maybe you're more into atmospheric black metal than I could be. So click those links you will find in description box and give these bands a chance in case you think atmospheric black metal is for you in the first place. Now, looking forward to your feedback regarding this kind of a review format. If it's cool, let's continue with it, and if not, maybe we will get back to the kind of a typical Rauta ways. Meanwhile, take care and enjoy some new music.